Welcome to the Week 11 Sports Betting Picks video here at FTN Bets, otherwise known as Betting with Benny, where we take a look at the opening lines from DraftKings and FanDuel and try to find some value based off our power rankings over at FTN Bets. The first game we're going to talk about here is a Thursday night football game between the Tennessee Titans and the Green Bay Packers. The Titans are 6-3 on the season, coming off a win over the Denver Broncos, 17-10 last week. The Packers are 4-6 on the season, coming off a good win themselves over the Dallas Cowboys, 31-28. When I break the numbers down on this game, I get Green Bay should be favored in this game by about 1.5. DraftKings agrees with me. They have it at -1.5 as well. FanDuel opened this game at -2.5. So there is a little bit of value, I would think, on the Tennessee side at +2.5. Now, is it a value that we really want to bet on, though? And I don't think the answer to that question is yes. You guys know we talk all the time about key numbers. The key number is 3. 2.5 is not getting us to that +3 that we really want there to get the protection of the field goal. So, yes, there is a slight value on FanDuel. I would expect that 2.5 on FanDuel to come down to 1.5. So if you do want to bet it, you should go bet it now. But is that 1 point really enough to get me to be super interested in this? And I don't really think it is. So I do think there's value on Tennessee. I don't think that Green Bay should be favored over this team by, more than 1.5 points. But if we're not going to get it up to that full 3, I don't really think there's a lot of value here. So I'm going to be avoiding this game, but I do think there's a slight value on that Tennessee side on FanDuel at +2.5. So now we move on to the 1 o'clock games on Sunday. The first one is going to be the Chicago Bears taking on the Atlanta Falcons. The Bears are 3-7, coming off a loss to the Detroit Lions, 31-30, in a game that they were winning for most of the game. Another very, very good game for Justin Fields, who seems to be, coming into his own right now as the quarterback there for the Chicago Bears. They tried to get him a little bit more help at the trade deadline, but really, I think they need some better skill position players on this team, which is one of the problems that they have. Atlanta is 4-6 on the year. They're coming off a loss on Thursday Night Football to the Carolina Panthers, 25-15 in a game that they did not look all that good. The good news for them, though, is they do have a little bit of extra rest here because that was a Thursday Night Football game. So I added a little bit to their side because of that extra rest. When I break everything down here, I get Atlanta I get these two teams are pretty even, right? I get Atlanta slightly better because of that extra rest that they have. And then when you factor in the home field advantage, I get Atlanta should be favored by 3. FanDuel has this at -3. DraftKings has it at -3.5. So at -3.5, I guess technically there is a little bit of value on the Chicago Bears side because you're getting the hook with them at +3.5. So again, if you want to go on the Chicago side, take it now, get the hook at +3.5. I do think this comes back to my number on DraftKings at -3 at some point here. But again, if you want to take it, it's half a point. But it is a big half a point. This half a point is worth more than the full point that we had on the Titans and Packers game because of where it lands with the number here. So 3 to 3.5 might be worth a wager. I would rather do that than, lay the 2.5 with, or take the 2.5 that Tennessee has there because we're not getting the full 3 in that situation. Next game, we can talk about the Carolina Panthers against the Baltimore Ravens. Carolina is 3-7 on the year. They are coming off that win on Thursday Night Football against the Atlanta Falcons, 25-15. So we do give them a little bit of a bump here because they played that Thursday night game and have some extra rest. But that little bit of a bump kind of goes away because the Baltimore Ravens are who they face. The Ravens are 6-3, and they're coming off a bye, so they have a lot more rest. So normally I adjust the team coming off a bye, give them about a +2. A team that has a little bit of extra rest for Thursday Night Football or a team that didn't play Monday Night Football has a little extra rest, I give them a +1. So you take the +2, you minus the +1 from it. So I gave Baltimore about an extra point on their power rankings for everything here. And when I do that, I get, I got Baltimore should be about 8 points better on a neutral field. Factor in the extra rest, that makes it 9. Factor in the home field advantage, I get Baltimore -11. DraftKings and FanDuel have this at Baltimore -12.5, and I get it. It's probably too many points for me to be interested in it. But with that said, I understand why they went to 12.5 instead of 11 because, again, you want to try to entice people not to bet on Baltimore here because Baltimore should win this game by double digits. They are that much better than Carolina. They are at home. This should be a very easy Baltimore victory. I don't want to be on Carolina, even though there's a 1.5 of value on Carolina there, but that 1.5 above my number is enough to keep me off of the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm going to be passing on this game here. I don't think there's any value, but I did just want to mention that, again, I have them at -11. The number's -12.5. Maybe it comes closer to my number. Even if it does, though, I'm probably going to be avoiding this one. Next game up is the Cleveland Browns taking on the Buffalo Bills. Cleveland is 3-6. They're coming off a loss to Miami, 39-17, in a game that they did not look very good at all. Let's see. Buffalo 6-3, coming off a loss to Minnesota in overtime, 33-30. Listen, Minnesota's 8-1. So yes, Buffalo at home probably should have beaten Minnesota. And I did make a slight adjustment for them. And that slight adjustment probably has a lot to do with the fact that, Josh Allen is not 100%. But at the end of the day, it's not like we're making a massive adjustment, like we're taking the Bills down like a whole field goal or anything. Really, it's about 1 point. Not even a point. I think it was a half a point was the adjustment I made on Buffalo this week. And even with that half a point adjustment, and the reason why I think it's the right adjustment to make, I make that adjustment on Buffalo to get them to a 7 points better than a league average team. I have Cleveland as 1 point better than a league average team. So on a neutral field, I would have Buffalo 6 points better. Factor in home field advantage, I get 8 points. You look at FanDuel. FanDuel has the same -8 that I have, so I think I'm on market there. DraftKings has it at -8.5, so a little bit above where I have it there, which would mean that, really there may be some value on the other side. But I mean, we're basically on market, right? -8, -8.5. Not a lot of value there, not really a key number that we're, going to be all that excited about playing. So for me, I have nothing on this game here. I think Buffalo deserves to be about an 8-point favorite, and that is what they are in this game. Next game, we can talk about the Washington Commanders. I almost said the Redskins. The Washington Commanders taking on the Houston Texans in this one. Washington is 4-5 on the year. They play on Monday Night Football against the Philadelphia Eagles. So again, make sure you guys get over to FTN Bets. We have a free trial going on at FTN Bets. So you type in www.ftnbets.com/free. You could use promo code Benny. And what they'll do is they'll give you a free trial. So you can go and check out all the charts, all the graphs, all the analysis, all the expert picks, not only in NFL, but in NBA, in soccer. We got some World Cup action that's going to be coming up. We got MMA, we got tennis, we got NHL, everything that you guys would be looking for. We got it over there. So remember, www.ftnbets.com/free, promo code Benny, and you can get your free trial over there. The reason I say that is this is going to be one of those games that I will make some updates to once we see what happens on Monday Night Football. We record this on Sunday night, so we don't have all the information, and you never know what's going to happen in that Philly and Washington game. Could be some injuries there. Washington could come out looking great. So maybe we'll make some adjustments. But on the look-ahead line here, I have Washington is about 2 points better than Houston on a neutral field, which means with Houston being at home here, I would think this game should be a pick 'em. And instead of being a pick 'em, we actually have Washington favored by about 2.5 points on both DraftKings and FanDuel here. So to me, the way that I would play this, again, we're not getting the full +3. So I don't want to take Houston +2.5. If Houston gets up to +3, I would definitely take Houston at +3. But I don't want to take Houston at +2.5. If I have this as a pick 'em, then I think, it's a 50-50 coin flip. And right now, Houston being a 2.5 point underdog here, you can get the money line for the Houston Texans at +130 on DraftKings. I think that would be the way that I would want to go about it. So the next game we can talk about here is the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Indianapolis Colts. Philly, the last remaining undefeated team in football right now at 8-0, and they play on Monday Night Football versus the Washington Commanders. Again, just like we said with the Commanders here, there may be some updates depending on how that game goes. I'm going to give you the look-ahead line now, but definitely get over to the FTN Bets Discord. Any updates that are made, any adjustments to any of these numbers, that is where you guys will see them first. So definitely make sure you get over there and check it out. The Indianapolis Colts, 4-5-1 on the year, coming off a win against the Las Vegas Raiders, 25-20. I'm not sure that really says a lot about the Indianapolis Colts. I actually think it says more about how bad the Las Vegas Raiders are that, Indianapolis was able to beat them 25-20 in this game here. When I break down the numbers on this game, I get on a neutral field, Philly should be probably about 9 points better. It's actually 10 points, but again, Philly playing on Monday Night Football, I actually make an adjustment because Indy has slightly more rest with an extra day there. But again, I get 9 points minus home field advantage. You get like Philly -7, Philly -7.5. FanDuel has it at 8.5. DraftKings has it at -9. So, I mean, I guess there's a little bit of value on the Indianapolis side here. If you want to play Indianapolis +9, I don't hate it. I think you got about 1.5 to 2 points worth of value there. So Indianapolis +9 would be the way that I play this. Again, I don't know if I'm going to make a straight up bet on Indianapolis, but what I want to say here is, again, at 8.5 and 9, I think I would rather tease this game up to Indianapolis +14.5 to Indianapolis +15, or on FanDuel and DraftKings there, respectively, rather than tease it down to like 3 points for Philly here. So, again, I don't want to say I love Indianapolis because I don't, but they do play low scoring, boring games here. If they're able to kind of keep Philly in check a little bit here, I do think Philly wins this game. I don't think Indy's going to upset them or anything like that. I just think 9 is a few too many points here. So not really super interested in that one. Let's see. Next game we can talk about, my New York Jets taking on the New England Patriots. Both of these teams are coming off of buys last week, so I didn't make any adjustment because they both have the extra rest for this game here. I did make an adjustment for New England having home field advantage. I do still have New England slightly better than the New York Jets. When I break the numbers down, I have New England should be favored in this game by about 2.5 points. The books have it a little higher than that. They have FanDuel has it at -3. DraftKings has this at -4. So I think the value here is to go over to DraftKings where you can get the +4 on the New York Jets and take +4 on the New York Jets. I was at that New York Jets New England game the last time they played. The Jets thoroughly outplayed them in the first half of that game. And then they ended the half with the stupid interception by Zach Wilson. And then Zach Wilson came out in the third quarter after New England made some halftime adjustments and threw 2 more stupid interceptions. But if you take away the interceptions that Zach Wilson threw, that basically killed the Jets in that game. The Jets were outplaying the Patriots up to that point. If you remember, the Jets also had a pick 6 that was called back towards the end of the half as well. If the Jets would have had that pick 6, they would have went up, I think they would have went up 2 touchdowns. So they would have went up like 17-10 or something like that, or 17-7 or something. And instead, they wound up not getting that. And then New England went out and scored, got the ball at the half, came down and scored again. And then the next thing you know, the Jets are down 2 touchdowns and playing from behind, which is not something they could really do with, Zach Wilson as their quarterback there. So I don't think it's that crazy to think that the value here is on the Jets side. Like I said, I have New England should be favored by about 2.5 points. The fact that you can get the Jets at 3.5 on FanDuel and 4 on DraftKings, I really like that +4 on DraftKings. So New York Jets +4 is the way that I'd be looking to play that game. Let's see. Next game up, the Los Angeles Rams are taking on the New Orleans Saints. The Rams are 3-6. They're coming off a loss to the Arizona Cardinals, 27-17. I mean, take what you want out of this game. There was no Matthew Stafford. There was no Kyler Murray. This was always going to be an ugly, just bad football game here. So I didn't make any adjustments to either one of these teams. I do think we have to see if Stafford is going to be playing next week, though. Again, he was in concussion protocol. He did not clear in time. That's why they had to use the backup here. I would expect him to clear concussion protocol at some point during this week and be available to play in this game. So that's why I used the number with Matthew Stafford as the quarterback when I was breaking this down. And with Matthew Stafford as the quarterback, I do think the Rams are better on a neutral field. With that being said, though, the game is not on a neutral field. It's going to be down in the Superdome in New Orleans. So I do think New Orleans deserves to be favored, not by a lot, though. I have New Orleans -1. DraftKings agrees with me. They have -1 as well. FanDuel has it at -1.5. Again, numbers 1, 1.5, like that. There's really no value there. So yes, technically there's a 0.5 point of value, but not anything that I'm willing to bet on here. So I don't have anything here for the Rams and New Orleans Saints. I feel like I'm pretty much on market here. And that brings us to the last game in the 1 o'clock window, which is the Detroit Lions taking on the New York Giants. Detroit is 3-6 on the year, coming off a big come-from-behind victory over the Chicago Bears, 31-30, in a game that we talked about a little bit earlier here. DeAndre Swift seems to be healthy, played really well here. It was the first time we've seen, DeAndre Swift kind of do anything in the last couple of weeks. He's kind of been somebody they've been hiding. So I was happy to see him out there. Probably not the greatest news in the world for the Jamal Williams owners, but Jamal Williams got in the end zone too. So, both of these guys are still involved in the offense. The New York Giants are 7-2. They're coming off a win against the Houston Texans. Went pretty much as expected here. Houston was bad against the run. The New York Giants decided to run the football. Saquon had 100-something yards, got himself into the end zone as well. Pretty much the way it goes for the New York Giants. That's kind of their offense here right now. So when I break this game down, I actually get a pretty big number compared to what the books have out here. I get the Giants should be favored in this game by about 6 points. I have the Giants about 4 points better on a neutral field, factor in the home field advantage. It gets up to 6 for me. The books only have this. DraftKings has it at -4. FanDuel has this at minus 3.5. So I think there's value on the Giants side laying 3.5 here. Um, Again, I mean, I would no problem laying the 3.5 on FanDuel with the New York Giants. I think that is where the value in this game is. I don't know. I think the Giants are a legitimate team. They're 7-2. Like, you don't get to be 7-2 by accident. I think we've gone long enough into the season to understand that this team is actually legit and for real. And I don't think people are giving them enough credit. And Detroit, yes, they may be on the upswing here a little bit, but I just think people are overvaluing this Detroit team. They do keep games close, but I think the Giants are a lot better. So I think there's value there. I have no problem laying the 3.5 on FanDuel. That's the way I'm going to be playing this game. And there you go. That wraps it up for the 1 o'clock games. We're going to take a quick commercial break and be right back to talk about the 4 o'clock games, the Sunday night game, and the Monday night game here on Betting with Benny. Welcome back to the Week 11 Sports Betting Picks video here at FTN Bets, otherwise known as Betting with Benny. Make sure to like and subscribe on the YouTube channel so you guys get updated anytime we post a new video. And if you're watching on linear television over on Game Plus Network, welcome to the show. We do have 4 teams that have a bye here in Week 11. It's basically all the Florida teams. The Jacksonville Jaguars have a bye. The Miami Dolphins have a bye. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a bye. And then you go all the way over to the other side of the country as the Seattle Seahawks are the 4th team that has a bye here. So we have 28 teams that are going to be in action. We have 14 games, 1 on Thursday, 1 on Sunday, 1 on Monday. We talked about most of the rest of the ones that were at 1 o'clock. And we have 3 4 o'clock games this weekend. So let's start with the first one here. The Las Vegas Raiders taking on the Denver Broncos. Las Vegas is 2-7 on the year, coming off a loss to the Indianapolis Colts, 25-20, in a bad loss there. Darren Waller was out in that game. I think he was put on IR as well, so we probably won't see him for a couple weeks. Foster Moreau did a good job filling in. He did have a touchdown in that game, so I don't really consider that a massive downgrade. Hunter Renfrow not being in, I think, is a bigger downgrade, even though Hunter Renfrow has not had a very good season when he has been active and he has been eligible here. They downgrade to guys like Mac Hollins. Will probably be somebody who sees a lot of snaps in his absence. Denver on the other side of this game is 3-6, coming off a loss to Tennessee, 17-10. The Denver Broncos have a very good defense. The Denver Broncos have a very suspect offense, and that's been the problem with them all season long. Russell Wilson has definitely not panned out the way they wanted to. Again, the running game is a little bit of a mess here for them as well, so not really a lot to love about this Denver Broncos team. When I break this game down here, I get Denver should be favored by 1 point. DraftKings and FanDuel have Denver favored by 2.5 points here. And I just think that's probably too many. So technically there's a little bit of value on the Las Vegas side. Again, 1 to 2.5, though, not really a key number, not really a place that we want to cross. I mean, really what I would like to do here, I think the best way to play this, I really like taking the Las Vegas Raiders and teasing them up to 8.5 here. You get through the 3, you get through the 7. That's something that I would rather do here rather than lay rather than take the 2.5 points that I'm being offered here. But I do think there is about 1.5 points of value there with my number being Denver -1 here. So again, if you want to take the Las Vegas plus 2.5, I don't mind it. But my favorite way to play this is teasing the Raiders up to 8.5 and getting through that 3 and 7. The next game is the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Minnesota Vikings. Dallas 6-3 on the year. They're coming off a loss to Green Bay, 31-28. They were up in that game. I think they were up 2 touchdowns in that game. And then Green Bay basically just came storming back. It was the Christian Watson show. With Romeo Doubs out, Christian Watson was somebody they were expecting to have a bigger role earlier in the year. And then Romeo Doubs kind of stole his thunder when he had an injury in the preseason. And now that Romeo Doubs has suffered an injury, Christian Watson had a big game. I think he ended up with 3 touchdowns in that one. So nice to see him coming into the fold. Let's see. On the Minnesota side, Minnesota's 8-1. Minnesota coming off that overtime win against Buffalo, 33-30. I mean, what can we say about this Minnesota team? I mean, this is, probably the best that they've looked. They're leading the division. They're one of the teams that is probably going to be up there for, a bye maybe in the NFC. Just a very good Minnesota Vikings team here. When I break it down, let's see. I get Dallas. I do have Dallas on a neutral field, slightly better than Minnesota, but it's very close here. But this game is in Minnesota, so when you factor that in, I think Minnesota should be favored by about 1 point. DraftKings has it at -2. FanDuel has it at -1.5, but they have it at -2 and -1.5 for Dallas. And I do not think at Minnesota that Dallas should be favored. If this game was at Dallas, yes. If this game was on a neutral field, yeah, you could even make an argument that Dallas is about a point better. I don't think it was a full point that I had in my numbers, but about a point better here. So really, the way I'm looking at it with Dallas -1.5, Dallas -2, I think the wrong team's favored. And when the wrong team's favored and we can't get a full 3 points, what we like to do is look to the money line here. So Minnesota on FanDuel is +110 on the money line. Again, I think Minnesota should be favored by 1 point, and I'm getting +110 on the money line. That's where I think the value is there. So I like the Vikings +110. Just take the money line on it. Don't mess around with the spread in this game. That's the way that I'd be looking at it here. Again, 8-1 is a very good record. You don't get to be 8-1 by accident. So I really like this Minnesota Vikings team, and I do think that they're going to beat the Dallas Cowboys. So take the money line on them. The last 4 o'clock game that we have here, the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Cincy is coming off a bye last week. They are 5-4 on the year, coming off a bye. So I made a little adjustment up on their number. Pittsburgh 3-6 on the year. At least they're coming off a win. They're coming off a win against the New Orleans Saints 20-14. I didn't think they did very well offensively in that game, but TJ Watt was back as well. And defensively, I thought they did pretty well in this game. So, that was interesting to see here with them beating New Orleans 20-10. On a neutral field, I get, let's see, what do I get? I get Cincy should be better when you factor in the bye and everything. I get Cincy's about a touchdown, maybe even a little more. I think it was 7.5, better than the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, Pittsburgh is at home, so I get it should be Cincinnati -5.5. FanDuel and DraftKings both have it at 4.5. So again, I think there's a little bit of value on Cincy. I think they're a little bit better than that 4.5. It's kind of in no man's land there, though, that 4.5. That's not really a key number. 5, not really a key number. So again, it's not a lot of value there. But I would think that this number is more likely to go up from 4.5 to maybe 5.5, closer to my number, than it is to go down to 3 or 3.5. So again, if you really want to be on the Cincy side, you probably want to take it now at that -4.5. Again, I don't think it's a great bet, but at the same point in time, I do think there's a little bit of value there. So that moves us on to the Sunday night football game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Chargers. Again, we filmed this video on Sunday night, so the Chargers game is actually going on in the background right now. They are up on the San Francisco 49ers late in the second quarter here. Let's see. Kansas City, the Chargers are 5-3 on the year, and then we'll see what happens in this game. So if they beat San Francisco, they go to 6-3. If they lose, they're going to be 5-4 coming into this one against Kansas City. Kansas City on the year is 7-2. They're coming off a very workmanlike win over the Jacksonville Jaguars, 27-17 last weekend. On a neutral field, I get Kansas City is probably about 5.5, maybe 6 points better. Factor in the home field advantage here for them. And I would think that the line on this game should be like Kansas City -4. Now, when we're doing this game, because the Chargers are still playing right now on Sunday Night Football, there is no line that's up on DraftKings or FanDuel for this game right now. But again, I'm going to throw my number out there, which is Kansas City -4, maybe even -4.5, somewhere in there. If the number is much bigger than that, then, again, I wouldn't take it. If the number is 3 or 3.5, I would think there's some value on the Kansas City side, and that's where I would want to be. Also, we got to make sure that the Chargers come out of here. As always, when we're waiting on things that we don't have perfect information on, get over to the Discord at FTN Bets, and you guys will get updated on everything once we have a little more information, which would be, the second, third, and fourth quarter of this game getting played. And that brings us to our last game, which is the Monday Night Football game between the San Francisco 49ers and the Arizona Cardinals. San Francisco 4-4 on the year, playing right now on Sunday Night Football against the Chargers, so still a couple things we got to work out with that. Arizona 4-6 on the year. They're coming off a win finally, snapping a couple game losing streak that they had. 27-17, they beat the Los Angeles Rams. Again, I don't want to take too much out of that game. I don't want to make too many adjustments from that game. It was backup quarterback Colt McCoy against backup quarterback John Wolford with Matthew Stafford and Kyler Murray out. So really, it was always going to be a game that, shouldn't really factor too heavily into the way we look at either one of these teams. Was it nice that Arizona won that game? Yeah, great. Arizona's backup quarterback is better than, the Los Angeles Rams backup quarterback, but I don't really think it tells us anything moving forward. Again, we have to see what happens with Kyler Murray. I didn't hate Colt McCoy back there, but I would make an adjustment downward for them if they're not playing. So I did this as if Kyler Murray is going to be in next week. If he's not going to be in next week and he's going to be out, then maybe this number should be a little bit bigger than it is. I think this number should be San Francisco minus 2.5. If there's no Matthew Stafford, if there's no Kyler Murray, I would think this number is probably more like San Francisco minus 5, assuming that all the San Francisco guys come out of the Sunday Night Football game healthy. So again, there is no lineup yet because San Francisco is still playing. There's probably also no lineup because we got to find out exactly what's going to go on with the quarterback situation in Arizona. But as of now, I would think if Kyler Murray's in, the number should be like San Francisco minus 2.5. If Kyler's not playing, I would think it's more like minus 5, maybe even minus 5.5 or so. So we'll have to wait and see how that all works out. So there you go. That wraps it up for this episode, the Week 11 Sports Betting Picks video here on Betting with Benny. Good luck this week, everybody.